The call came on Friday, an ordinary day when the smell of fresh coffee still lingered in the kitchen and hairspray clung to my fingers from the morning rush. I had just finished packing our suitcases for our long-awaited vacation when my phone vibrated with an unknown number. No caller name, no reason to answer. But I did. "Claire Wilson?" asked a deep male voice. I hesitated for a second. "Yes, that's me." "Good afternoon. This is Nathan from Sunshine Getaways. I'm calling to confirm that all the documents for your family vacation in Cancun are ready. Departure tomorrow at 7:30 a.m. as planned." I smiled, feeling a wave of joyful anticipation wash over me. 10 days in paradise. 10 days of freedom from routine, from dirty dishes and school lunches, from Mike's increasingly distant demeanor and our growing silences across the dinner table. 10 days to remember who I was before I became just mom and wife. If only I had known then that this vacation wasn't the beginning of our family's healing journey, as I'd hoped. It was the beginning of the end. The resort was everything the glossy brochure had promised. Pristine white beaches, water so blue it hurt your eyes, and palm trees swaying gently in the warm breeze. The kids, Emma, 14, and Ethan, 10, practically flew out of the cab and toward the massive swimming pool visible from the hotel entrance. "Don't run!" I called after them, but my warning dissolved into the humid air, drowned out by their excited squeals. Mike stood beside me, his face unreadable as always these last few months. He'd barely spoken during our flight, burying himself in work emails, despite promising this would be a real vacation. I studied him now as he checked us in, the gray creeping into his temples, the deepening lines around his eyes, the slight softening around his jaw. 15 years of marriage had changed us both, but lately I'd been wondering if we'd changed too much, grown in different directions until we barely recognized each other. "I got us upgraded to an ocean view," he said, returning with our room keys, a small smile cracking his professional mask. I felt a flutter of hope. Maybe this was what we needed. Maybe the sun and sea could heal what had been broken in the cold Michigan winter of our relationship. The resort staff greeted us with tropical drinks, virgin pina coladas for the kids, the real deal for Mike and me. As I sipped mine, I noticed a tall, bronzed man organizing equipment near the beach volleyball court. He wore the resort staff shirt, but it did little to hide his athletic build. As if sensing my gaze, he looked up, and our eyes met for just a moment before I quickly looked away. A warmth that had nothing to do with the Caribbean sun spreading through my body. "Mom, Dad, can we go swimming now?" Ethan pulled at my sundress, his eyes pleading. "Let's get settled in our rooms first, buddy," Mike said, ruffling our son's hair. I snuck another glance at the beach attendant as we walked toward our building. He was watching me now, a slight smile playing on his lips. I quickened my pace, suddenly very aware of my husband's hand on the small of my back. That was the first time I saw Javier. I didn't know then how that brief glance would set in motion events that would destroy everything I held dear. By day 3, we had settled into a rhythm. Mike would take the kids snorkeling or to the water park in the mornings, while I enjoyed some alone time with my books by the adults-only infinity pool. In the afternoons, we'd all meet for lunch and family activities. The evenings were for fancy dinners and resort entertainment. It was during one of those mornings that Javier approached me. I was alone, pretending to read while actually watching him lead a yoga class on the beach below. "You should join us tomorrow," he said, appearing suddenly beside my lounge chair, water dripping from his hair. He must have just come from the ocean. "You spend all your time watching life instead of living it." I felt my cheeks flush, embarrassed at being so transparent. I'm here with my family. And yet you're alone right now." His accent caressed each word. "I'm Javier. I teach yoga, beach volleyball, and private swimming lessons." The way he said private made my stomach flip. "Claire," I replied, immediately regretting offering even that small piece of myself. "And I'm actually a very good swimmer, thank you." He laughed, a rich sound that seemed to resonate in my chest. "There are many kinds of swimming, Claire from America. Some take you deeper than others." With that cryptic statement, he nodded toward my wedding ring, Tomorrow, 9 a.m., yoga on the beach. Your husband and children can spare you for 1 hour. Before I could reply, he was gone, leaving nothing but the scent of salt water and sunscreen in his wake. That night, I found myself unusually attentive to Mike, snuggling close to him after the kids had fallen asleep in their adjoining room. But he was distant, checking his phone repeatedly. "Work?" I asked, trying to keep the accusation out of my voice. "Just making sure everything's running smoothly back home," he replied without looking at me. "The Johnson account is in a critical phase." I rolled away from him, the familiar disappointment settling in my chest. "We're supposed to be on vacation, Mike." "Money doesn't take vacations, Claire. Neither do mortgages or college funds." His tone wasn't angry. It was worse. It was indifferent. I lay awake long after he had fallen asleep, thinking about Javier's invitation and the way his eyes had lingered on mine. It had been years since anyone had looked at me that way, like I was something desirable, something worth pursuing, not just a fading beauty with stretch marks and crow's feet. The next morning, I told Mike I was going to the spa. Instead, I found myself walking toward the beach in yoga pants and a tank top, my heart racing with a mixture of guilt and excitement. Javier's face lit up when he saw me, and for the first time in years, I felt truly seen. It started innocently enough: yoga classes in the morning, casual conversations by the pool when Mike was busy with the kids. Javier was 32, 10 years my junior, born and raised in a small town near Mexico City before traveling the world as a diving instructor and finally settling at this resort. He listened to me in a way Mike hadn't in years, asked questions about my dreams and desires as if they actually mattered. On day 5, he offered to show me a hidden cove a short walk from the resort. "The most beautiful place to watch the sunset," he promised. "It will heal your soul." I should have said no. Every cell in my body that was a mother, a wife, screamed at me to decline. Instead, I heard myself saying, "I'll meet you at the beach entrance at 5:30. I told Mike I was joining a sunset meditation class. He barely looked up from his laptop, just nodded and said, "Have fun." Emma rolled her eyes, increasingly irritated by everything her parents did these days, while Ethan was too engrossed in his video game to notice my departure. The cove was as beautiful as Javier had promised. A small, secluded stretch of sand enclosed by rocky outcroppings that glowed golden in the setting sun. We sat side by side, watching the sky transform from blue to a riot of orange and pink. "You're not happy," he said simply, not looking at me. I opened my mouth to deny it, to defend my perfectly fine life and my perfectly fine marriage. But something about the dying day and this man who owed me nothing freed the truth. "No," I whispered, "I'm not." When he kissed me, it felt inevitable, like the tide rushing to meet the shore. His lips were soft but insistent, his hands strong as they framed my face. I knew it was wrong. God, how I knew. But in that moment, I didn't care. For the first time in years, I felt alive, desired, on fire. I pulled away first, my hand covering my tingling lips. "I can't," "But you want to." It wasn't a question. I stood up, brushing sand from my clothes with trembling hands. "I have to go. My family will be fine without you for a little longer." He rose too, standing so close I could feel the heat radiating from his body. "Meet me at the staff quarters tomorrow. Building C, room 118. No one will know." I walked back to the resort alone, my mind a battlefield of desire and guilt. I told myself I wouldn't go, that one kiss was already too much betrayal. I showered for a long time that night, as if the water could wash away my sin and my temptation. But the next day, while Mike took the kids parasailing, an activity I'd begged out of with a faint headache, I found myself standing outside Building C, room 118, my hand raised to knock. The affair lasted 5 days. 5 days of stolen moments, of passionate encounters in his small room or secluded beach spots. 5 days of Javier whispering promises in my ear. That I deserved happiness. That life was too short to stay in a loveless marriage. That he could show me places and experiences beyond my imagination. For those 5 days, I constructed an elaborate web of lies. spa treatments, shopping trips to nearby markets, a fictional friendship with an equally fictional woman named Lisa from Minnesota who needed company for various excursions. Mike never questioned my absences. Whether he was too absorbed in his own world or simply didn't care enough to inquire, I couldn't tell. That only fueled my justifications. See? He doesn't even notice I'm gone. He doesn't love me anymore. I deserve this. On our last night at the resort, Javier and I lay tangled in his narrow bed, the ceiling fans stirring the humid air. "Come back to me," he murmured against my hair. "Next month, next year, or stay, start over." For one wild moment I imagined it, abandoning my life in suburban Detroit for this man in this place. The fantasy was intoxicating. Days filled with sunshine and nights filled with passion. No carpools, no PTA meetings, no cold silences across the dinner table. Reality, of course, came crashing back. My children, my home, the life I'd spent 15 years building. "I can't," I said, the words thick in my throat. "Your eyes say differently." Javier traced my cheekbone with his thumb. "You Americans, always so afraid to live." I dressed slowly, memorizing the contours of his body, knowing this was the last time. "This was never real," I said, more to convince myself than him. "This was a vacation fantasy." He smiled sadly. "If that helps you sleep at night, mi amor." I kissed him one last time before slipping out, making my way back to my family, to reality, to the consequences I was certain I'd escaped. We flew home the next day. As the plane lifted off, I watched the turquoise waters of Cancun recede, taking with them my brief escape from real life. I felt hollow, wrung out. Beside me, Mike worked on his laptop while the kids watched movies on their tablets. None of them seemed affected by leaving paradise behind. I'd done it. I'd had my affair, my midlife rebellion, and gotten away with it. My family was none the wiser. Once the guilt subsided, I could focus on rebuilding my marriage, on finding my way back to Mike. Or at least that's what I told myself as we landed in Detroit, as we drove through familiar streets to our colonial house with its manicured lawn and white picket fence. Everything looked exactly as we'd left it. Everything was normal. I breathed a sigh of relief as I unlocked the front door. The first week back was a blur of unpacking, laundry, grocery shopping, and settling the kids back into their summer routines. Mike disappeared into his office most days, working longer hours than ever. Our brief moments of reconnection during the vacation, dinners where we actually talked, one night when we'd slow danced under the stars, seemed to evaporate in the harsh, fluorescent light of our regular lives. I tried to forget Javier. I deleted the secret email account I'd created to communicate with him. I threw away the small seashell he'd given me as a parting gift. But at night, in the cold space between Mike and me, in our king-size bed, memories of sun-drenched skin and whispered endearments would flood back, leaving me restless and aching. It was exactly 2 weeks after our return when I noticed the first sign that something was wrong. I went to buy groceries and my credit card was declined. Embarrassed, I paid with cash and called the credit card company from the parking lot. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Wilson, but that account was closed 3 days ago," the representative informed me. "That's impossible," I sputtered. "It's a joint account with my husband. The primary cardholder closed the account, ma'am. You should speak with Mr. Wilson." A cold dread began to pool in my stomach as I drove home. Mike wasn't answering his cell phone. When I pulled into our driveway, I noticed his car wasn't there, even though he should have been working from home. The house was quiet when I entered, too quiet. I called out for Mike, then the kids, but got no response. School was out for summer, and Emma had texted me earlier saying she was hanging out at home with her brother. I moved through the house, the silence growing more oppressive with each step. In the kitchen, a single envelope sat on the island counter, my name written in Mike's neat, precise handwriting. With trembling fingers, I opened it. "Claire, by the time you read this, the kids and I will be gone. Don't bother looking for us at my parents' or with friends. We're somewhere you won't find us, at least not until I'm ready." Yes, I know about Javier. I've known since the third day of our vacation. Did you really think I wouldn't notice the changes in you? The secretive smiles, the sudden shopping trips, the unexplained absences. I saw you with him at the Cove. I followed you to his room. I heard your promises and your moans through the thin walls. I said nothing because I wanted to see how far you would go, how much our family meant to you versus a vacation fling. I got my answer. While you were busy destroying our marriage, I was busy making arrangements. The house has been sold. Closing is next week. Your name has been removed from our bank accounts. I've filed for divorce on grounds of adultery with evidence. My lawyer will be in touch. The kids know a version of the truth appropriate for their ages. They know you betrayed our family and chose to pursue your own desires over their well-being. Emma saw you with him too, by the way. That day you claimed to be at the spa, she was walking back from the beach volleyball court and saw you kissing him behind the beach bar. She came to me in tears, asking why her mother would do such a thing. What could I tell her? I've tried to be a good husband to you, Claire. I worked long hours to give you and the kids the life you wanted. The house, the vacations, the private schools. I know I've been distant lately, but did you ever ask why? Did you notice the toll the recent layoffs at my company were taking on me? Did you see how hard I was working to make sure we wouldn't lose everything if my department was next? No, you were too busy feeling sorry for yourself. Too busy seeking validation from a resort employee who's probably moved on to his next conquest already. I planned this vacation as a last attempt to save our marriage. I wanted to reconnect with you, to remind us both why we fell in love. Instead, I got a front row seat to watching you fall into another man's arms. The kids don't want to see you right now. Emma says she hates you. Ethan keeps asking what he did wrong to make you stop loving us. Don't try to contact them. It will only make things worse. My lawyer will arrange supervised visitation when they're ready. I never thought it would end like this. Neither of us is perfect. But I never betrayed you, Claire. Never. Goodbye, Mike. I sank to the kitchen floor, the letter clutched in my shaking hands, the awful truth crashing over me in waves. He knew, he had always known, and not just Mike, Emma had seen me too. The thought of my daughter watching me betray her father sent a physical pain knifing through my chest. As if in a trance, I moved through the house, really seeing it now. Mike's closet, empty. The kids' favorite stuffed animals, gone. Family photos removed from the walls, leaving ghostly rectangles on the paint. In Emma's room, her diary was missing from its usual spot on her nightstand, the diary where she wrote her deepest thoughts, which she'd never let me read. In Ethan's room, his beloved gaming console and collection of Minecraft figures had vanished. They were really gone. I tried calling Mike again, straight to voicemail. I called his parents, his brother, his best friend. No one answered. I tried Emma's phone, then remembered with a jolt that we hadn't gotten her a new one after she'd lost hers on the trip. I had no way to reach my own children. In a panic, I drove to Mike's office. The security guard gave me a strange look. Mr. Wilson? He put in for an extended leave of absence 2 weeks ago, right before you folks went on vacation. Said he wouldn't be back until September. 2 weeks ago? Before our trip? My mind reeled. He had been planning this even before he knew about Javier. Or had he suspected even then? Back at home? No, not home anymore. Just a house I would soon have to vacate. I found more evidence of Mike's methodical dismantling of our life together. Mail had piled up, and among the envelopes was a notice from our bank confirming the removal of my name from our accounts. A printout of text messages between Javier and me, screenshots of emails, a business card for a divorce attorney. An estate sale company was scheduled to come next Tuesday. My entire life was being erased, piece by piece, and I hadn't even noticed it happening. That night I slept on the couch, unable to face our empty bed. I woke up hourly, checking my phone, hoping for some message from Mike or the kids. Nothing came except an email from a lawyer, coldly outlining the divorce proceedings and informing me that all future communication should go through their office. In the harsh morning light, I walked through each room of our house, the home we'd bought 10 years ago, where we'd brought Ethan home from the hospital, where Emma had lost her first tooth, where we'd hosted countless birthdays and Christmases and Thanksgiving dinners. Soon, strangers would live here, creating their own memories on top of the fading ghosts of ours. I found myself in front of the large mirror in my bathroom. The woman staring back looked older than her 42 years, with dark circles under puffy eyes and new lines etched around her mouth. What had Javier seen in her? What had he truly offered, beyond pretty words and momentary pleasure? And what had I sacrificed for those fleeting moments of feeling young and desired again? My children's respect, my husband's trust, my home, my financial security, my place in our extended family and community, my identity as a wife and mother. All gone like footprints washed away by the same Caribbean tide that had witnessed my betrayal. 3 months have passed since that day. I live in a small apartment now, working as a receptionist at a dental office. The only job I could find quickly with my outdated skills and 15-year employment gap. The divorce will be finalized next month. Mike's lawyer has been brutally efficient. I've seen the kids twice, during court-mandated supervised visits at a family center. Emma refuses to speak to me, sitting as far away as possible, her face buried in her phone. Ethan hugs me, but his questions, "When are you coming home? Why don't you love Daddy anymore? Did I do something wrong?" cut deeper than any knife. Mike attends these visits only to drop off and pick up the children. He looks straight through me, as if I'm already a ghost from his past. I've heard through mutual friends that he's been promoted at work. The stress and distraction I'd attributed to indifference had actually been his desperate attempt to secure his position during company restructuring, to protect our family's future while I was busy destroying its foundation. Yesterday, I received a text from an unknown international number. "Still thinking of you, mi amor. I'm in Phuket now. Paradise awaits if you want to escape. Javier." Still moving from resort to resort, beach to beach, affair to affair. I didn't respond. Instead, I deleted the message and blocked the number. Sometimes I wonder if Mike had planned his revenge all along. If the distant behavior and long work hours had been a test I failed spectacularly. Other times I recognize the painful truth. There was no master plan, just a man faced with irrefutable evidence of his wife's betrayal, making the cold, calculated decisions necessary to protect himself and his children. The resort affair that had seemed so passionate, so life-affirming in the moment, now reveals itself for what it truly was. A brief, meaningless encounter that cost me everything I truly valued. The warm Mexican nights with Javier fade more with each passing day, while the absences in my life, my children's voices, my husband's quiet presence, the comfort of my home, grow sharper and more defined. I keep thinking about something my mother told me on my wedding day. "Marriage isn't about grand passions and sweeping romances," she'd said as she adjusted my veil. "It's about choosing each other every day, especially when it's difficult, especially when the world offers tempting alternatives." If I could go back to that resort, to that moment when Javier first approached me by the pool, I'd walk away. I'd go find Mike and the kids, pull them close, and recognize the true paradise I already had. But life offers no rewind button, no chance to undo our most catastrophic choices. There is only forward, one foot in front of the other, through the rubble of what once was. Tonight, I'll attend my first therapy session. Next week, I start taking classes at the community college. The first step toward rebuilding some kind of career, some kind of future. Small steps toward becoming someone my children might someday forgive, someone I might someday forgive. The journey will be long. The cost of my vacation love continues to compound daily. With interest, I'll be paying for the rest of my life. But it's the only path forward through the wreckage of what was once my perfect American dream. If you're listening this, if my story resonates with some hidden discontent in your own life, remember, paradise is never found in deception. The momentary thrill isn't worth the permanent devastation that follows. I learned that lesson too late, in a beachside resort where I thought no one was watching.